Attention men, here's an important new podcast you need to be listening to.
So this whole issue about prostate and prostate health and all the challenges that we're having with it, but no one's talking. So that's the reason why I started this podcast, so we can talk, so we can get understanding. I understand I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical individual. I'm just an ordinary, normal guy who had some issues to say, hey, let's talk about this thing.
P is for Prostate with Odell Cleveland. Download anytime where you get your podcasts. And join for the full podcast at www.patreon.com/Odell Cleveland.
Coming up in this episode of Finding Common Ground.
The big thing now is Hunter Biden has been given a pardon.
Well, I guess the question is, would you pardon your son?
I probably would have. That means I'm no better than anybody else. But then I didn't go and say that I would never do it either. I think that President Joe Biden is going to go down in history as one of the most ineffective presidents. Do you think that the United States of America have two different justice systems? The one for rich people and the one for poor people. You know, this whole thing is going to be real with the tariffs, and what may or may not happen is anyone's guess. And Bill, I don't want President Trump to fail. If he fails, we fail.
There are two sides to every coin.
How do we deal with racial issues when they affect relationships?
Finding common ground on all those issues that we come against.
There's black and there's white.
And I think as Christians, we have to learn how to get together because we're not in heaven.
I've met more interesting people just by God just bringing them in.
Republicans and Democrats.
But a lot of times when it comes to race and it comes to culture and it comes to perception, even as Christians, we don't always understand. We look at it through our lenses.
There's Bill.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Parma.
Any black people in Parma?
There was not one.
Not one black person,
Not
Bill?
one.
Come on,
Not
Bill.
one.
You got to have one. A
Nope.
token black person? A token?
And there's Odell.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, public housing, single mom, divorced single mom of 4 kids. And I came up through segregation and all that kind of stuff.
If a black person drove through the town, the police would stop and escort them out.
Bill and Odell are finding common ground.
A part of what we have to do is listen to each other, find the common ground, and question, not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning you for better understanding. Father God, we just come to you this evening in the precious name of Jesus Christ. God, we just thank you for grace and mercy. We just thank you for a blessed time with family and friends during the holiday seasons. God, many people are traveling to and from, and we just thank you for traveling mercies. And again, it's nice to see those loved ones, look in their eyes, hear the stories that we've heard so many times before, and we laugh, but it's just good family time. So God, we thank you for the little things. In Jesus' name we pray and believe, amen.
Amen. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for safety as both sides of our families traveled a lot. And as they did safety on the roads, on airplanes, however they traveled. Thank you for a nice, long, relaxing Thanksgiving weekend with Dory and I and the dogs. Thank you for the good weather, and then it got cold. Now, Lord, thank you for letting me come up to hunt camp for a couple days and fellowship with guys that I've been doing this with for 15 years. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Bill, 15 years, hunt camp, hanging out with the guys. Does it ever get any better than this? Because you're married, you're responsible, you all that, but it's still nice to hang out with the fellas from time to time.
Yeah, these are good Christian fellows. In fact, we got a pastor up here, so we really got to watch our P's and Q's. I keep slipping him a little bourbon. He seems to be getting happier and happier.
So that's the Holy Communion, huh?
Yeah, Holy Communion, yeah.
So, Bill, the big thing now is Hunter Biden has been given a pardon, grant of clemency. They say that whole thing has never been done before except for President Nixon. Full and unconditional pardon, protecting him from future prosecution. And it's like Gerald Ford did it in 1974, Richard Nixon, and never faced federal charges over any crimes he possibly could have committed over the past 10 years and haven't even been charged with yet. So just think about it, Bill. Is my guy, and I'm a Democrat, proud, you know, good looking black guy Democrat. I think the Democrats just got a black eye, Bill. So someone gave the good looking black Democrat a black eye. And, you know, is the prerequisite character any more for presidents? Because Biden lied, Bill. Biden lied.
Well, I guess the question is, would you pardon your son?
Well, the question is, will I pardon my son? That's a good question. And that's what a lot of people are wrestling with. Our good friend Spoon, and I won't say his real name, in Atlanta, Georgia, did a post that was very interesting. He said, okay, yes, Biden lied. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, it was privileged. Yes, it was this. Yes, it was that. But would you have pardoned your own son? And I probably would have pardoned my own son. And that means I'm no better than anybody else. But then I didn't go and say that I would never do it either.
Having been in politics, these people ask you a lot of questions, and you have to have tremendous discipline to say, I'm not going to answer that. He could have said that, I don't know. I got to consider it instead of saying no. But at that time, I think he was worried about getting elected and before he, gave up to Harris. So I think he was just trying to appease people by saying, no, I wouldn't. Well, the right answer could be one of two things. I'm not going to answer that question right now until I get more facts, or I don't know. And that would have been an honest answer.
Well, Bill, I'm used to President-elect Trump lying. I'm kind of used to that. I mean, not trying to be funny. And President Biden set himself up to be like, the battle for the soul of the nation. Remember that speech, September 1, 2022? And at Independence Hall of Philadelphia, of all places, where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States was debated and adopted. And Biden kind of said that he is the good guy, Trump is the bad guy, and he's fighting for the soul, to save the soul of our nation from Trump. I don't know, Bill. I don't know, Bill. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was in DC when Nixon was pardoned by Jerry Ford, and a lot of us young people were really upset that he did that. In fact, I suspect that might have cost him the election. I think two things cost Jerry Ford his election. One is that pardon, and two, him falling down because he came across as a buffoon. But he was the only Eagle Scout ever to sit in the Oval Office, and he was a really smart guy. He just didn't come across that way. And but I think that cost him the election by pardoning him. Now,
Well, Bill
Biden
was
doesn't have to worry about that.
well, yeah, and was it abuse of power? Election does have consequences. It's interesting. You may remember this podcast. We talked a long time ago, and I said, okay, Biden's going to win, Trump's going to lose, because I was trying to get people to take my deal. No Biden, no Trump 2024. I went with that thing and I'm sure that's one of the reasons I got kicked off of the TV show that I used to do with Mark Walker a long time ago, because a lot of times producers want you to say what they say, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna say what I say. So
What did they
if
want
I
you
don't
to
get the
say?
next shot,
What
huh?
did they want you to say? The producer.
Well, it was Fox Station. It was a Fox station, and I think that Fox at the time was more right than left, and I was more left than right. And I used to say things like, Trump this, and in 2022 when they lost the big red wave, I gave everybody a hard time about that. But the thing about it is, the whole thing about no Biden, no Trump 2024, I still believe that. I used to say that Biden was going to win and Biden would pardon Trump, and this is on our podcast, and then he would pardon Trump first, and then he would pardon his son. And I
Mhm.
remember we talked about that. Well, it didn't happen that way. Biden lost, Trump won, so I was wrong. Um, he pardoned Hunter. He didn't pardon Trump. I was wrong again. Well, 50-50. But at the end of the day, bribery, illegal lobbying, other criminal, stemming from his foreign business and drug addiction. Hunter Biden was a mess. We know that. Hunter was a mess. And
I'm not saying my son is any better, any worse, or anybody else's son is any better, any worse. But I think what Joe said, as a father, I abused my power as the president to pardon my son. And I think that was wrong, Bill. I don't think that was fair. But again, when you ask me the question, would you have done it for one of your sons? And the answer is, probably.
Well, if Bev told you to, definitely.
Does that mean Joe Biden's a hypocrite? Was President Donald Trump would have pardoned one of his sons?
You betcha. He pardoned Jared Kushner's dad, who was in
Well,
prison.
now Derek Kushner's dad is going to be a
ambassador to some country.
I mean, come on, man.
Does it ambassador to France?
Get any richer than that?
I think ambassador to France.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
I think if you promise Trump that you will work to put a new Trump hotel in a country, you'll get an ambassadorship.
Well, obviously, there's no shame in their game. You know, Biden did it, and then he left the country and said, "Hey, I'm not giving y'all an answer because I don't have to answer you. I'm gonna do it at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday night or whenever." And they tell me, I don't know, but they told me that the legal paper is in front of a judge Monday morning. So they weren't playing with that thing. It's like, we're going to do it and we're going to move on. So I thought it used to be a vetting process for when you candidates to be pardoned and at what level they'll be pardoned, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, I think that President Joe Biden is going to go down in history as one of the most ineffective presidents, not the most, but if you give 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, I think that President Joe Biden is going to be in the bottom third. What's your thought, sir?
He got a lot of legislation passed. You know, he got the Build Back America bill passed. That's, you know, we're feeling the effect now. You drive around the country like we did, and you see construction projects all over from the buyback of, you know, America. So I think that's a big thing. And then there was another one before that he did. I don't know if it was COVID relief or something. I can't remember the other one. But there are two big pieces of legislature that he got through when, you know, he was in the minority. So that's quite an accomplishment, I think. Like he got major drugs reduced, prices reduced for people, insulin and things like that. Now he's talking about getting the weight loss product as well on Medicare, so the people.
So you think he's going to do all he could do on his way out the door?
Oh yeah, he's going to do as much as he can. You know, Trump can come back and, you know, do executive orders and change some of that stuff, but we'll see what happens. Trump the other day, or he said he was telling somebody that if the hostages aren't returned by his election when he takes office in January. He told Hamas, if you think you're having problems, when I get involved, it's going to be hell to pay. So he's threatening them. You better give back the hostages, because if I come in, there's no holes barred. And I'm thinking, holy cow, the Israelis don't seem to be, you know, they're like destroying Gaza.
Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because Trump is coming. You know, and this sounds silly, but it's true. I was flipping the channel the other day, and I saw this pastor kind of comparing Trump to the second coming or something like that. Bill, does people in the Republican Party really believe that?
Some of them do. Some of them actually do. You know, they said, you know, I have two saviors, Jesus Christ and Trump.
Wow. I don't buy into that. That's just my thoughts. But let me tell you something that caught me off guard. You know, we went home for Thanksgiving, Charleston, South Carolina, dirt roads in South Carolina.
Tell me how that was. Tell me about that. How was
it?
That?
It went well. But after Thanksgiving, that Friday after, we started this new tradition now that we have an oyster roast. So I was talking to some of my nieces and nephews and some of the younger people, and they're hardcore Democrats, but they start talking about, you know what? We didn't want Trump to win, but let me tell you something about what he was saying. And they started talking about immigration, and they started talking about some of the things that they're experiencing down in South Carolina. Now, these are educated, people, my siblings and everything else. But they're saying when they go places and they see folks who just got in the country and they have food stamps and all these other benefits and everything else, and they weren't complaining, they were observing, and they're like, something ain't right here. When people in this country are struggling, it appears that sometimes if you're a sanctuary city, folks are coming in and getting housing, they're getting medicine and food stamps and cash assistance, access to public benefits, concern, and they were concerned over that. And it caught me off guard, Bill, because these are my nieces, my nephews, these people I've been knowing my whole life, but they're young, 30, 40 something years old. They're in their careers, they're owning their own businesses, they're doing what they're doing, but they're looking around and said, I'm busting my behind paying taxes, which is fair and legal, but I look around and other people are not doing it. So it's like, something needs to change.
Well, I'd ask them. Well, here's a question for you and I. Do you know any people that are getting those kind of benefits that have come into the country illegally? Have you
No, I
crossed
have
any?
not.
And we know
Nope, I don't.
we see a lot of people between you and I. We
Yeah.
haven't seen any of that. So the question is, how do they know that? They heard it on the news or they heard somebody say it on TV. I guess the question is that really happening? Is that really happening?
Bill, I agree with that. The question, however, the reality is if one thinks it is. I mean, right now,
They're dehumanizing those people, and that's the first step in hating. You
well,
dehumanize. That's what
I think
they
I
did to
think
the
it's
Jews,
yeah, what they did do to everyone, but
blacks,
they're
and the
just saying they're
blacks.
looking around and they don't see. So that was the oyster roast conversation, good,
Yeah,
bad, and different, and that's a real conversation.
yeah.
And I don't know if they knew or didn't know, but I'm just telling you what they were saying,
Yeah,
and they meant it.
yeah. But here's the thing. I challenge them to say, "Show me the proof. Show me one person that you can point to that has done that," and they probably
Right.
can't. So if they can't prove it, they're just going to keep saying lies. It's like, hey, we didn't go to the moon. It was done in a set in California. Some people,
Uh-huh.
some people believe that.
Well, some people believe that Trump did nothing wrong. I would have never thought that it would be a time when all the charges against President Trump would be thrown out. I just didn't believe that. I did not believe that the charges would be thrown out. And now, as President of the United States, then he has total immunity. I think the Supreme Court's decision, right or wrong, good or bad, and President Biden fell right into it. He used it. In my opinion, he used it to his benefit.
Yep, sure did. Sure
So,
did.
so what does that say about our democracy, Bill?
I think we got a lot of working to do. But if you look at our founding fathers, all men are created equal except blacks.
Uh-huh.
So they had the same problem.
So the commonality here is what? Biden's white and he's a male. Trump's white and he's a male, or what? Because Obama was there, President Obama, and I don't think when he was up there, his behavior was the same as what we see now.
Well, I think what I'm pointing to is that back then they couldn't fix slavery, and Trump, you can't fix Trump. I mean, he is what he is. He's been that way for years. He knows how to use the legal system to delay, appeal. It's like Bill Clinton. Remember when Bill Clinton got caught? He said, "Well, it all depends what the meaning of is."
Yeah, with
That's
Monica
a lawyer.
Lewinsky.
That's
Yeah.
that's a lawyer. A lawyer will question every single thing and file a motion to have a hearing about what is the meaning of is. And unless the judge rules that that's a waste of time, they got to have a hearing. So you could go through the whole paragraph and challenge every word and take a long time to come to court. In the meantime, Trump was hoping to win the election, which he did. All goes away.
So what happened to his good pal and companion Rudy? Does Rudy Does Rudy get
Rudy,
get out of
Rudy,
jail free
notice,
card?
notice Rudy is delaying. And what's he hoping for? Trump becomes president and can somehow pardon him. Problem is, Rudy's issue is a state issue, not a federal.
Mm.
So he's hoping to be able to leverage something with the Georgia governor or something that can give him some reprieve, or a judge that will say 159 million is way out of whack. You probably owe him 20 million, but not 159 million. There's no way that guy's ever going to come up with that kind of money. If he sold all his assets and became a pop street person, he wouldn't come up anywhere near that number.
Okay. So, Bill, do you think that the United States of America have two different justice systems? The one for rich people and the one for poor people?
It could be. Yeah. I think rich people can hire good lawyers. Poor people can't. If you're poor, you get a public defender. Not that they're bad lawyers. They just don't have the bandwidth to keep delaying because they're handling so many cases. If you got enough money, you can get the most powerful law firm to give you all their time. I don't know what Trump's legal bill was a month, but I can tell you the Boy Scouts, when we were going through our bankruptcy, we were going through $7 million a month in legal fees.
Wow.
7 million
Trump
a month.
Trump didn't go to jail. No one from the Boy Scouts went to jail.
Not the pedophiles did.
Okay, so you did have some who went to jail. No one did. Well, it was kept quiet because I never saw a name of someone who went to jail.
Yeah, well, a lot of times the people that were the pedophiles had either already been in jail because they got caught doing with somebody else, or they had died because it was so long ago these things happened.
Wow.
Some of them died in jail.
So help me with what's your predictions of the next 4 years, sir?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Hey, listen, I did something without your permission, and I guess it's a good time to tell you now because I already did it.
What commission are you talking about?
You know what I did?
What?
I called Superintendent Mo Green, and he called me back, and I congratulated him. Called me back about an hour or so later. I congratulated him on his win, and I said, Mo, guess what? He said, what, Odell? I said, listen, I know a guy who I think would be great working with you on a statewide level because this gentleman is very interested in getting schools endowments to help pay for what they're doing. And I said, it's my good friend, Bill Goebel. And he said, okay. And I said, well, when would you want to talk about it? He said, well, we're going through the transition right now, but almost like, and I don't want to lie because there's been too much lying going around, Bill. There's lying from the White House to the outhouse. Everybody's lying. From the White House to the outhouse, folks are lying. So he said, well, let me get through with my transition team, and I would love to talk with you later on about the concept.
Yeah,
so,
maybe.
Bill, I guess, is this a good time to say, would you be interested if the opportunity presented itself to work with State Superintendent Mo Green on helping with that whole concept that you believe so deeply in, helping schools around the great state of North Carolina established endowments and make the school better and make it better for the children?
Yeah, I'm not saying no to that. I think it's a great idea to build up endowments like they have in New Hanover County and Orange County. And if it means putting a task force together and going around and helping people do that, I think that's a great thing. I think it sounds like you and I are going to take a trip to Raleigh after the first of the year.
Yeah, go visit Mo. Go have lunch with Mo.
Yeah,
Mo, we're on our way, baby. We're on our way.
That would be great.
On the road again.
Great. There we go. Road trip.
Question for you. We have a party this weekend, correct? Friday night? Is it Saturday night? One of those nights.
Yeah, I think it's Saturday night with Uncle Roy.
Yeah, we go to Roy's party.
You're going to come over and we'll drive over together like we did last time?
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. Let me tell you about another great idea.
Then that means I got to give it to Dory because then it will happen.
There you go. So Trump appointees was fighting this whole background check by the FBI all week. And I think they finally decided today that, yes, they will go ahead and deal with the background checks from the FBI instead of this private vetting company. so the Senate can use the information to help make decisions. If Odell has certain backgrounds, the FBI kind of finds out about it. But the thing about it is what they were saying is a lot of our institutions, that's the cornerstones of democracy in the United States of America, we're starting to question those institutions now. So, Bill, what happens when we don't trust ourselves?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I ever told you, but I was called in by the FBI because of a
No, for what? For
congressman.
hanging out with the good-looking black guy?
Yeah,
Did they
and
quiz you
you knew
about
that
me,
was going to
Bill?
happen.
Did they quiz you about me?
Yeah, the I was working for Wilson Sporting Goods, and I was marketing director for commercial golf clubs. And I had worked in Washington D.C. for a congressman, and I was in my office, and I get a call from the FBI. I was living in Chicago area. I get a call from the FBI in Chicago, and they said, "We'd like you to come down to the office for some interrogation about the congressman."
What?
And that's what I said. I said, "Who the heck?" So they sent me a formal letter. So I went to my boss at Wilson Sporting Goods, who happened to have worked in Washington, D.C. And I was terrified because, FBI calling you in to go downtown
Right?
Chicago, interrogated. I'm thinking, what the heck? I don't know if I have any information or anything. So I went in and saw my boss, and he had been through something like that when he worked in D.C. And he said, "Do you know what they're looking for?" And I said, "I don't have any idea." I said, he said, "Well, do you know anything that the congressman may have done that was illegal?" And I said, "No." And I actually lived with him for 3 months at his house. His wife went to California to take care of her mom, and his son was in college. So when I was in his office in Cleveland, he said, "Why don't you come to DC and be my companion? We'll go out to eat with to the lobbyist every night because I don't cook, you don't cook. So your job is to schedule meetings with lobbyists every night for dinner, and then a meeting, and then he said you could drive me into work and if I need help doing things." And I said, "That'd be great." So I went in and worked there, and never saw anything funny, other than funny stories about congressmen and stuff. Like one night I came home, and this guy, congressman, had been there. I think his total thing, I think he had 20, maybe 20 terms. Long,
Wow.
long time. I came in, and they had a late night at the house. He's in the house. And I get home maybe about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I've been out with a buddy of mine, and this guy is in front of his piano at his house in his boxer shorts and t-shirt playing the piano like crazy, really good. And I looked at him, I said, I'm not going to give his name. I said, "I didn't know you knew how to play the piano." He says, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I learned it." He said, "I learned it." And I said, "Well, who taught you?" He said, "Harry Truman."
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So DC has a lot of stuff going on, Bill.
Yeah.
Just a lot of stuff going on. So now, one of the things that they talked about at the oyster roast in South
You like
Carolina, my
oysters?
family.
I didn't know you
Yes, I
liked
do.
oysters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's interesting. I haven't been to oyster roast in years. Oyster roast, crab cracks. That's the things we grew up doing. And I fell right in there, man. They said oysters up. Next thing I know, I'm at the table with the little shucker, and I'm opening them like, I,
yeah.
it just, what you know.
Yeah.
But one of the conversations they have, because
Hold
one
on. I
of,
still got more questions about this oyster. How do you eat your oysters? Just straight up? Or do you put
yeah, yeah,
hot sauce on them?
they have sauce on it, but I don't deal with all that kind of stuff,
You just
man.
go
I like the fact
straight in.
that they're salty, coming from the ocean, the salt water. It's a salt there, and good oysters, of course. So it's not much mud and debris and all of
Yeah,
that stuff.
they're really
So
good.
I just enjoy the cold weather, the big fire out there. Everybody's laughing and joking because with COVID, we lost something around family and holidays. So just for families to be back out there together and spending time and telling stories. A little bit of drinking going on, a little bit of lying going on, a little bit of reminiscing. and people just having a good time, Bill. And it was good for me because I run so hard all the time, just to be able to sit there with my nieces, my nephews, and now all of a sudden I'm one of the older people, out there. I'm the bald head guy. I'm the guy who, after about 10,
Godfather.
11 o'clock, yeah, 10 or
Love it.
11 o'clock, I'm getting kind of tired. I'm like, hey, and they just
And they're
and they
just
just
starting.
crank it up. So I just go into the hotel room. They just cranking up. So you know how that go.
Yeah, well, the pictures were great. Well, I tell you, I got to share with you a story. When I was living in Connecticut, this guy Wally Lidster was my boss's boss. He's pretty high up, but we would take the train in, and Wally was one of my mentors. He helped me learn business. In fact, he said, pick a subject every week and sit next to me on the train, and I'll teach it to you about business. So
Wow.
I did that for about 3 years and learned a ton of stuff. And I'd bring reports in. I said, "Can you explain this to me, how this works?" And it was incredible. Uh, but one day we were talking, and he said, "Have you ever been to a New England lobster roast?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He says, "I'll tell you what. If you're willing to do the work, I'll teach you." And I said, "Sure." So he says, "Here's what you do. In your house in Connecticut, um, you got to dig a hole, uh, and it's got to go down about 3.5 feet, which is hard in Connecticut because there's a lot of stone. A lot
Uh-huh.
of, he says, save those stones because after you dig your hole, you're going to take all those stones and just cover the outside or the inside of the hole with stones.
Line. Yep.
Yeah, line it
For
with
heat.
stones for the heat."
Yep.
And he said, and then you're going to take a 55-gallon uh, trash can, clean one, new one, and you're going to go down to Long Island Sound at low tide, and you're going to pick up all the rockweed. Now, rockweed is seaweed that has little pockets of salt water in it.
Mm.
So when you start steaming with it, that salt water explodes and turns into salty steam. And he says, so you got to get 55 gallons of that. He said that'll be the hardest thing. And then you out when you get all that done, he says you got to pick up lobster, crab, uh, chicken, sweet potatoes,
Wow.
um, clams, and oysters and lobster. And he said, what you do is you get a bunch of these cooking bags and you put the oysters in some and the clams in some, the potatoes and everything gets in a cooking bag, including the lobster. And he says, so then once you get all that together, you call me and I'll be over there about 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll start the fire in your pit.
Mm.
We'll cook, we'll have that fire going all day long.
Wow.
Then we'll steam some clams and some oysters and we'll have some beers and you can invite your neighbors. He said, this is a neighborhood thing, so invite all your neighbors. So we did. We invited all our neighbors. And I think we had 25 or 30 people. And so what you do is once you get all that rock really hot, you take your shovel and you spoon out as much hot coals as you can just to keep it hot in there. And then you throw in some rockweed, then you throw in your potatoes, you throw some more rockweed on top of it, and you keep layering it till you get to the last thing is the uh, uh, lobster. And then you
Uh-huh.
cover that lobster up with the final rockweed. And then on top of that rockweed, you put one lobster and you cover it up with a tarp and you cover the whole tarp up with the dirt.
Mm.
So it's kind of sealed. And you leave it in there for at least an hour, sometimes longer. And the way you can tell when it's done, you pull the tarp up, and if that lobster in the top is perfectly done, everything's right.
Mm.
And holy cow, the salt water, which you were talking about,
Yeah.
gives it some kind of flavor. You don't,
Yeah.
it was so sweet. I mean, it's really good. It's the other thing is I found it's a great way to eat butter.
That works out there. But the closest thing we got to that when one time when our kids were little and they were scouting Cub Scouts, they did like a dirt oven or something. I forgot the young ladies who's in charge.
Dutch oven,
Yes. They took
Dutch
some
oven.
aluminum foil and buried it in dirt or
Yep.
something like that. It was good. It was
Yeah.
good. We
Yeah,
had
and
we
put the
had a good
coals
time.
on top. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you do the cookie merit badge, which is a requirement for Eagle, you have to learn how to cook meals in the Dutch oven.
Mm. Well, they knew about it as young kids. But let me ask you a question though, Bill. One of the things, the oyster roast, they talked about tariffs, and one of my niece's husband is a longshoreman. Now he works in operations or something, kind of he has a very good position, and talking about tariffs. And he was saying how he said, Uncle, a lot of the information that you all are getting on TV is not true. A lot of those wages are lower than what they're saying they are and everything else. So, like anything else, everyone has their opinions. He said, we're going back on strike. We're going back on strike early January. And he said, the new president's probably going to come in there and say, well, if you all don't go on strike, I'm going to call it a national emergency. So I'm going to fire you all, kind of like what Reagan did with the air traffic controllers. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing works with the tariffs with China and other places. It's going to be interesting how Canada and Mexico respond to Trump's summons to come to Mar-a-Lago. And it's going to be interesting to see how the longshoremen, those who unload those big containers, how they roll their strikes around, because they may strike in the East Coast, then they may strike on the West Coast, and just all the different places. So what's your thoughts on that? Because now people are starting to front end, the business people I know who does a lot of business, they're saying they're going and ordering their things now. They're ordering things like major appliances, shoes, interesting enough, a lot of games for the gamers, smartphones, and computers. So a lot of those things are being front loaded. They're ordering them now. These big orders coming out of China now. That's what my business people are starting to say. So between my business owners who I know, between my family members who are up in the longshoremen and all this, it all seems that, when you triangulate it, Bill, it seems like it's real. This whole thing is going to be real with the tariffs, and what may or may not happen is anyone's guess. But you know what's going on because you have a direct line to the White House. So what the folks at the White House of Mar-a-Lago saying, Mr. Goebel?
Well, last time they called me, we had a chat about this.
Okay.
I said, Odell's going to ask me this question, so I need an answer.
Okay.
But let's start with the longshoremen. The question I have is, did the longshoremen endorse Trump?
They did. In a crazy way, they did, but it was more people endorsing Trump than not. So they just decided they weren't going to endorse anyone, if I'm not mistaken. But they said that was the problem. The problem was more of the people wanted to vote for Trump and they didn't want to split it. So they just said, we're not going to endorse anyone. Wow. That's what I think. Now I could stand to be corrected though.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what the pay rate is for longshoremen. I think it was going up significantly. I remember the number, it was pretty big. It was like 20 or 30%. But, if it's 20 or 30% on a small number, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So if he says they're going on strike, they probably are. And Trump can do what he did with the air traffic controller. The difference was when Reagan did it, he brought in the military air traffic controllers, replace them. It did slow up. I mean, it wasn't as efficient initially, but it broke the back of the union. And,
right.
And so, we'll see what happens, what Trump wants to do with that. As far as tariffs go, I'm thinking my gut is that he is using this as a tactic to get what he wants out of these countries. Like the French president went down and saw him, and if we shut down and put high tariffs on products from, say, China, and those tariffs are going to be passed on to the consumer
to a certain degree. Yes, I agree.
Large percentages, absolutely. When the price of electricity goes up, Duke Energy charges price of electricity to a company.
No, you're right.
They pass it through. They don't. Very rarely do they eat it because they got shareholders, they got stockholders. They have fiduciary responsibility to return a profit. So they're going to pass it through. So that means you and I are going to pay it. Walmart's already said it. Home Depot's already said it. All these companies, Best Buy has said it. They're going to pass most of it through to consumers. And so, on the other hand, these countries have financial issues. China doesn't have enough work for its people. It's got a stagnant economy compared to what it was. So they need our orders to keep their people working. And so if Trump says, I'm going to cut you off, it's like us saying to the Arabs, we're never going to buy your oil. We don't need it anymore. Yeah, they may sell it to China and India, but they're not going to sell it to Russia because Russia has plenty of oil. So, if we say, hey, we don't need any oil, we don't need it, that's going to hurt them, the Arabs, because they only got one product. It's oil. And they're trying to diversify. They're trying to become something else, but that takes years to do. And same thing with China. They have one customer, primary customer, and it's United States. If you take all the other customers together, it doesn't even equal the United States. So it's called the Walmart effect. If you have a company and Walmart is your biggest customer, they're doing 80% of your business or something like that, and they decide one day we're not going to do business with you, guess what happens to your company? You go bankrupt.
Yeah, go out of business. Yeah,
Go out of business. Yeah. And that's what these countries are facing. They all got issues. Now, to give you Canada, for example, a lot of our cars and car parts come from Canada. So if he raises the tariffs, that means all of our automobiles are going up in price. They're already really expensive. So, you've got a 60-month mortgage or 72-month mortgage. I bet you if prices go too high, they're going to give you a 10-year mortgage on your car, but only give you a 100,000-mile warranty. So,
wow. If you start thinking about it like that, and then you put in the possibility of the deportation, so what do you do with you're going to deport X amount of people? But we used to always say the anchor children, meaning that, okay, the mom may have come in illegal, the dad may have come in illegally, but the child is born and the child is a U.S. citizen. So now that's an anchor baby. What do you do with that family? What do you do with that child? What do you do with all that? The fact that the United States prides itself on getting cheap labor, whether it's in-house or around the world. What do you do with those jobs? Like President Trump said, they're taking black jobs. And, that really offended a lot of black people. But Trump's not concerned about offending black people. Trump's not concerned about offending anybody.
No, he doesn't care. He got elected by a ton, and he doesn't care. Now
he got elected by a ton of the people who he offended.
Yeah, I know. And, it doesn't matter. People knew his background. They knew all his issues, and it didn't seem to matter to people.
And I think that's the best way one could put it, because it's not like Trump came sneaking up on anybody. We have who we deserve. We have who we deserve. And I say we, even though I didn't vote for President Trump, but he's still going to be my president because I am a citizen of these United States of America, which I think is the greatest country at this time. I don't think it's a perfect country, but no country is. But he is my president. And Bill, I don't want President Trump to fail. If he fails, we fail. I know a lot of people know I want him to fail. I want him to be miserable. That's not where I'm at. I'm not there. I'm not a fan, but I want America to win. And I know that may sound kind of weird to some people who listen to me, but that's just the way I feel about the whole thing. But I'm not a Trump fan. But at the end of the day, elections have consequences. The election is over. Now we have to live together as much as we can, agree to disagree. And guess what, Global? We might have to find common ground. What do you think about that concept, that whole common ground thing?
That would be nice. That would be very nice to find common ground. I think that would be great. I think the one of the things that we ought to think about for 2026. How's that for thinking out there?
Okay.
Yori, I, and Bev. They just remodeled Notre Dame.
Okay.
They had a special on it, 60 Minutes. You remember when you went in it, when we were there in Paris, how dark it was?
Yep.
It's sterling white. They cleaned all the soot off. They cleaned all the paintings. You can see the colors are vibrant. If you watch the 60-minute thing, it's phenomenal what they did. They started a whole new industry of artisans. Young people wanted to learn how to do wood with pegs, how to do chisels with sculpture, how to refurbish old paintings in stained glass, and thousands and thousands of young people have come in to help. Isn't that amazing?
Hey, let's book the tickets, man. First class, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go ahead and book the tickets 2 years in advance. I can afford my first class tickets with 2 years in advance. So let's start that conversation. Be a good conversation to start talking about Friday on our way to Roy's party.
Well,
So I think
maybe Roy will.
that'd be interesting.
If Roy lets us use his jet, we don't need to go first class.
Well, I don't think Roy's gonna let us use his private jet. I think we're doing good to be a regular at the Christmas party, but I don't think we're gonna be a private jet. But one time we were scheduled to fly to the Bahamas in the private jet and get on the yacht and go deep sea fishing. Remember that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
So who knows? I'm gonna ask him about that Friday. I'm gonna say, hey, buddy boy,
he owes you a
let's
trip,
get on
Bill
the
Dell.
private jet and go to Paris.
He owes you a trip.
Yeah.
He owes you a trip. Tell him
So,
that.
hey, what's this new thing I'm hearing about, Bill? You can kind of help me with this, or maybe you've never heard of it before. It's this new thing that's helping our economy called buy now and pay later. Now, I'm an old poor boy from the dirt roads of South Carolina. So we used to have this thing called layaway. I don't know if you ever heard of layaway
Oh, yeah.
before, Bill,
Yep.
but layaway was a big deal, man. It was a big deal two ways. When you picked out all the things and took it to the cash register in the back, because it was in the back, and they took it out and folded in these skinny boxes. And then when you finally went to make that last payment, you got to carry the stuff home.
Yep.
So did they have layaway in Ohio, Bill?
We did. I think two of my brothers were born late away. Dad kept sending money in.
But it's interesting when you start thinking about this whole concept and debt. No one's talking about the national debt. That's not a part of the conversation anymore. No one's talking about anything but now. So it's just interesting when you look at the difference on how a country moves and how a country kind of full circle. And for those who get stuck with, wait a minute, this is what I believe in, this is where I'm staying, I don't think we need to spend money. I think the national debt is this and the national debt is that. So you're going to be a conservative or a moderate, whatever, because there's so many different slices and dices to what people are. You are this kind of Democrat or that kind of Democrat or this kind of Republican or that kind of Republican or this kind of independent, that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see where we are. And financially, my 401k looks good, Bill. My stocks are looking better. So everything is kind of going up. Look like Wall Street likes Trump.
You think it's time to sell?
No, not yet. I'm gonna hold on to it for probably another year. I'm gonna ride it out. I think the first year is gonna be utopia. I think the second year is gonna be good. I think the third, after the 2026 election, I think the wheels are gonna start falling off. But by that time, smart money would have already moved and be where it needs to be. So we'll see how it works. We'll be on our way to Paris in 2026, right?
There you go. Hey, do you know when the last time we had no national debt?
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, not that long ago. Bill Clinton had no debt. Look at all the debt we've got now.
Well, look at the debt you have now, but look at the debt the Trump administration is gonna bring, because Trump doesn't mind getting in debt. Too bad that the country can't file bankruptcy like he's done so many times, but that's a strategy,
Too big to fail.
Well, that's what they say. So, hey, guess what? They said that COVID is not a major issue. We're having problems with COVID. We're having problems with the flu shot. But, hey, everybody's still getting together, Bill. And COVID and the flu is something that we used to be afraid of, something that we used to be concerned of, something that used to kill people, something that started arguments. But now we're just rolling, Bill. Somebody cough now, you kind of look, but not before. One cough before would stop the party, Bill. One cough would stop the music. So now, what is COVID? What is the flu shot?
Did you get your COVID and flu shot?
Of course, I bellied up to the bar and I went and got my COVID updated COVID shot. I got my flu shot. I was going to get an RSV, and they said, no, you can only get that every 2 years. I said, well, somebody better tell me because I'm going every year when I can, Bill. I believe in the vaccine. I know some people don't, but I do, and I'm going to continue. I just think it's very, very important. Very important.
Yeah. Everybody, that's always a controversial issue. People that say, I haven't had anything, and I don't know if I will or anything. Right now, I'm not planning on it, but maybe when I'm getting real older, I will. But I had a friend that was a mortician, and just teasing, when you're a marketing person, your brand has seasonality. Certain times of the
Yes.
year it sells more, and so I just teasing. I said, does your business have a seasonality? And he goes, oh yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of stunned. I wouldn't think. I think people die all the time. He goes, no, during the flu season. He says that's our
Wow.
peak season. That's when we're the busiest,
During flu season.
during flu season. Isn't that wild?
Hey, let me ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
This one caught me off guard. As you know, I'm 64 years old. And so somebody must have got my name and my birthday, Bill. Because this whole thing about sign up for Medicare and all this kind of stuff, Medicare Advantage and check out. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I called our good friend, Anita Bachman, the president of United Healthcare. And I said, Anita, what's going on? And she said, nah, you don't have to sign up anything. Just sign up a month before your birthday. So, I mean, it's just a whole nother deal. Democrats, Republicans, independents, it doesn't matter, Bill. If you're a certain age, Medicare is going to be calling you. People must make a lot of money off of signing people up because
Yes,
I've gotten more phone calls and texts and everything else. So you hate to hang up on people, but you try to tell them you're not interested and they keep talking. So if they keep talking, I'm going to click on them. Boop.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you.
Good thing I don't have the old phone where I could slam the phone down on them.
Yeah. How the heck they get your number?
I don't know. I have no idea, but they have it and they're using it.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm a Medicare, and it's good for me. It works out. Dory isn't. She's a couple of years away from getting that. So I think she's probably 5 years away. When are you supposed to get it? It's 60 what? 65?
65, that's what they say. So
Yeah.
that's when you're supposed to get it. Hey, as we move toward close, let me ask you a question on this. Elon Musk, people are saying he's the shadow president, is talking about suing Chat GPT, said that he gave him over $1 billion and they're supposed to be a 501c3, and now they're trying to turn into a LLC. What do you think about that?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything,
Okay.
so I can't answer your question.
Do you think Elon's going to get what Elon wants?
I don't know. If it goes to law, I mean, he's got a lot of money, so he can afford good lawyers. So we'll see.
Well, but they said, I think that many saying that every time you see Trump, you see Elon. And who's really in charge, Trump or Elon? What do you think?
That's the boogeyman. That's like your relatives saying that, all these immigrants are getting all these benefits, but they've never met one that has. They're just repeating stuff. I think it's just you're going to hear
You think
all
my
kinds of
relatives are
craziness.
starting to sound like Republicans, Bill?
Listen, the guy behind everything is Rudy Giuliani.
There you go. But do you think my relatives in South Carolina start to sound like the Republicans?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You got to get him a "Make America Great" hat again for Christmas.
No, I'm not gonna get them a red MAGA hat, Bill. I'm not gonna do that to my
Just
good
send it to him
family.
anonymous. Just send it to him anonymous.
We're not gonna do that. So, Bill, you said buckle up, buttercups. We got 4 years of some hard riding to do. How old is President Trump now? President-elect Trump?
70 something. He's in his 70s. I don't know. He's the oldest president we've had elected.
Older than Reagan?
Yeah.
So it's quite possible that he may start losing a little bit of his
Won't happen.
toward the end of the election.
And you know why?
I mean, toward the end of his term.
I know exactly why it won't happen.
Why is that?
Because he eats McDonald's every day.
Well, you know what? So, Gobo, what's the latest in your your political career, sir?
Making decisions after the first of the year. Dory and I
Okay.
are pray on it and see what happens. And, there's a lot of things opening up that are not political. So we'll see. And I'll certainly let everybody know through the podcast what we decided. So we're at the point we're ready to close, bud.
But let me ask you a question. Those who could see you, what's all those dead animals doing over your head? Where are you?
This ain't nothing. You should see the ones in the living room. You see that one deer up there?
Yes.
That's a small one. He's got 32 10-pointers mounted in the other room.
So you're at a hunt camp?
Yeah.
Okay, how many acres? A lot?
Almost 800.
So what's the bass doing up there over your hat? Is he have a big pond out there too?
Yeah, he's got a big lake here, yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, you enjoy yourself. Try to stay safe. Don't get hurt. It's cold out there. It's about, 20 degrees? You're going out 20 degrees in the morning?
Here it's going to be 14 tomorrow when we go out before the wind chill.
So
I got Mr. Buddy going.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, love you, appreciate you, and just stay safe and try you and Mr. Buddy stay warm.
Yep, love you too, and I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, sir. Talk to you later.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Find Bill and Odell online at thecommonground.show. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. Darren Sutherland, executive producer. Doug Harding, creative director. Jacob Sutherland, director. Producers Jason Gentarola and Matt Golden. And Jinrei Zhang, video producer. All rights reserved.
Whether you're a big, medium, or small business, managing and growing the bottom line is important. Focus CFO brings the experience and financial acumen of a Fortune 100 chief financial officer to your company at a fraction of the cost. P&L help, internal reporting processes, or any business transitions or events. Focus CFO will help you and your team have a CFO in your company's back pocket. Focus CFO. Learn more at focuscfo.com.